Welcome to the Healing Project podcast. You, me, and we, where personal growth meets relational intelligence.
In this space, we are committed to having conversations about loving others well without losing yourself. I'm Jefferson.
And I'm Rosa.
And we are the Joneses.
Spiritual leaders, entrepreneurs, and emotional health advocates.
Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Healing Project podcast. You, me, and we. I am Coach Jefferson.
I'm Coach Rosa.
And we're excited to be here for another episode, y'all. I'm super excited about this one. This one is very special. I have the privilege and honor to interview the most dynamic and amazing woman that I know, woman of God that I know, my wife, my best friend, my only lover, and so much more, Rosa Nicole Jones. And Rosa, she has, babe, you have, such a heart for people. But that same heart has had to learn when to pour out and when to pull back.
Amen to that.
And tonight, you guys, she's gonna share some of that process with us. So, we're gonna jump right into this, and I'm coming strong. I'm coming hard with the questions, and I want to see if she can handle these questions that I got coming at her.
All right, now bring it. Bring it.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we're gonna see. All right, here we go. So, yeah, these first couple of questions, I feel like starting, just dealing with some early, like your early awareness, some family roots type questions. So I'm going to start here. Would you say you've always been someone who gives a lot of yourself to others? And where did that start for you, if that's the case?
I would definitely say yes. And I think that, like a lot of women, even as young girls, I was socialized that way. I think that's where it comes from. It's just like, being a woman in this society, my mother, my grandmother, aunts, family friends, when you're a little girl and you're watching these women, the reality of it is that the type of women that I grew up around with and the women who were my role models were people, they were women who definitely put others before themselves. And so I think that it was something that was modeled, and that was a norm. And I think probably an expectation in regards to like roles and responsibilities. And so I think that I got it honestly.
Okay. Yeah, with getting it honestly, like who would you say, when you think about, these women, who would you say were at the forefront of that for you?
Yeah, I would definitely say women in my family for sure. Like my mother, she was definitely a giver and still is a giver. 4 children she and my father had together. They were married for 10 years and divorced. And, just the way that she gave to us, and then also the way that she gave to my father, he struggled with addiction. And, if anybody knows anything about that sort of lived and life experience, it's really impossible for someone in addiction to function without somebody who's enabling, right? And
Mm,
so I think, a lot of times in their relationship, it was blurry between supporting and enabling. And so I definitely saw a lot of that in the early years when I think back. I also think about my grandmother. I love my grandparents, God rest their souls. They were just some of the, and because I'm always telling you
yeah,
stories about
yeah, you
them.
always talking about them.
I am always talking about them. I miss them with my whole life. I'm named after
Mm,
my maternal grandmother. Her name was Rosa. My oldest brother is named after our grandfather Albright. So it's
yeah.
funny. We were just like little versions of them, mini versions. But they were, definitely socialites in the Black community and the Black church. They worked hard. They shared everything that they had with others. There were people who were wise with money and they saved and they gave. They gave to the church, they gave the community. They were always looking out for people, especially my grandfather in particular. Man, he could never go anywhere and meet a stranger, and he always had something to give to someone. He was always
Mm,
bringing things to people or learning about a need and filling it. My grandmother always had plenty of food and was inviting people over and being a blessing to people in the community. And so, most definitely from them as well. They were givers. They really loved us
mm.
and they loved others well.
Wow, that's so good. And I can just see you in that, and how you express that and just like being a giver. And I think that's, important in this episode. It is learning to love others well without losing yourself, right?
Right. And as I
It's,
sit here and I talk about my grandparents, for me, there's just a lot of pride in that. I think I
mm,
definitely took pride in, and I still do, in who they were as people and what they modeled to me. And I definitely, as a young person, wasn't very aware of maybe some of the ways that they may have overdone it with their giving,
mm,
but it
mm,
definitely was a sense and a source of pride in regards to seeing them the way that they flow within the context of family and community, the pillar of strength that they were, and really wanting to embody and emulate that.
mm. That's so good. So good. Um, so yeah, we're talking about this giving, and we know that um, love, love should be. I'll say this: love should be in the foundation, should be the driver of our giving, and that's not always true. And so I want to talk to you in this, about love, responsibility, and sacrifice.
Yes.
So looking back, what early experiences shaped how you saw love, responsibility, or sacrifice?
Yeah, I mean, just so many, different things that kind of, played a role in that. I think, definitely having a father who was in addiction. I think that love, responsibility, and sacrifice, they were always, kind of intertwined in terms of just trying, my mother, I think, trying to do the best that she could to care well for us, to be aware of him and his needs and his struggle, and to have grace for him. And, kind of riding those lines, if you will, because sometimes those places can get murky when you're dealing with someone in addiction. And, I think that it can be a really challenging thing to do. But I think that I learned very on, just how to figure out and find my way, in regards to trying to strike that balance. And, I think trying to be as faithful as you can in regards to love and commitment for people that you really care about, whether they be your friends or your family members or whatever. So I think, for me, even earlier on, I think I just took relationships seriously, connection seriously. My friendships and my relationships, whether it be my friends or my family members, they've always have it's meant something to me. And yeah, how do you kind of balance those things out?
I just, to my dear audience, y'all pray for me. I'm looking at this beautiful face, and my wife is stunning, and she's like glowing right now. So y'all pray for me to get through this interview.
Help him, Lord. Help him, Jesus.
So yeah, you mentioned your dad, you mentioned the addiction, you mentioned your grandparents. So tell us just a little about your upbringing and what it love looked like in your home growing up.
Yeah, I think growing up in our home, of course, mom and started out with mom and dad and four of us kids. And like I said, my parents were married for 10 years and then divorced. But, and before they separated, I think growing up, love to me was like spending time together and doing things together.
Mm,
My mother in the early years, I remember her staying home with us. And she didn't begin to work maybe until we went to school, and then she worked some part-time. And then after my parents divorced, she went back to school and started her career. But I think a lot of it really centered around spending time together. My parents worked hard. But I remember when the weekend hit, boy, and I talk to you and tell you and the boys stories about this all the time. And now, we live in the Atlanta area, and two of my aunts are here. So we have these conversations and we reminisce all the time. It's like when Friday hit in my family, it meant that we were going to go out to family and we were going to do something together. My dad was taking us to have dinner out on Friday night. If we weren't going to the skating ring on Friday, we were at a carnival on Saturday or a festival or
Something.
at the swimming pool, and our cousins were always with us or we were with friends. But I think love for me and family context early on was about togetherness in terms of
Mm.
spending time together and doing things. We were just very active, every Sunday at my grandparents' house. Every weekend is with family and friends. And so I think that was a big part of it. I think that's what I learned. It's about being together, having fun together, and enjoying each other, even if you get on each other's nerves along.
Uh, yo, that's good. That's funny. It made me think about, so to our audience, we have like a family chat on our phones, but then we also have one on IG. And so our boys sent us this reel, and it's like this girl sitting at a table, and her cousins are up dancing and just wilding out. And the boys were talking about where they could see themselves in the reel. And it was just funny to think about that dynamic, and just how we have been intentional about positioning them to have these opportunities as much as we can
Yeah.
to connect with their cousins.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Because we don't live close by to
Right.
cousins that are their age. I had the privilege of having that as the dynamic until I was about 9. And then after that, we moved away. But it's just something special. It really is.
Hmm. Yeah. So since we're talking about family, how would you say your family influenced your beliefs about strength, emotions, or being needed?
Oh, that's a good question. I think definitely within the context of my family, on any and every side of my family that I can think about, it's just we identify ourselves as strong people.
Mm,
um, period. People in my family, they work hard, they get their education or they learn their trade or their craft in life, and they work they work and do whatever it is necessary to build for them, their families, to build for themselves, to try to be responsible and capable adults. And so I think being strong is definitely a part of the identity on my family, on both my mother's and my father's side. So I think that piece comes honestly. I also think just given the era in which I grew up in and just kind of where we are in the world, I think we're just in our country and culture are just getting to the point where we're normalizing conversations about emotions and
mm,
emotional experiences and emotional worlds. I would not say that, type of conversation was really a big part of a whole lot. I
mm,
think that was definitely probably very similar to other people who grew up in the 80s and 90s and are now, adults or whatever. I think that's something that we're coming more into um, in this day and age. So I think just definitely a lot of emphasis on being strong, holding things together, and being loyal for sure.
mm. That's good. Yeah, that loyalty, being strong. Um, so, just how, you talked about, strength and, for you as a woman, how have you seen that play out for you in your upbringing into, say, like your adult life? and then even relationships.
I think that it's I've always seen myself as strong. That's not changed. I think
Facts.
I think that the way that it has definitely evolved,
Mm.
over time in terms of what I think about or how I define what strength is, I think I should
Oh, that's
say,
good.
right? And so, yeah, I think that it's just something that has evolved. I think that the strength as a part of my identity and as being a woman has always been there. But the way that I see that has just evolved over time and really just expanded more to include um, more of myself and my own needs, and not just strength in regards to what it is that I can do for others and in support of others, right? But also in regards to caring and tending well to my own soul and
Mm.
cultivating a life that I believe that is worthy of the one who has called me. So it's just evolved.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. So now we're getting into, you talked about like, what you're called to, just how that has, strength in relationships and how that's evolved. Uh, but now back to this work element and calling, in your career and in your leadership journey. When did you start to realize, that your drive to help others, could sometimes cost you personally?
Right away. I mean, right
Oh,
away. Yeah. I mean, I started my professional career when I was 23, 24 years old. So very young, got a bachelor's degree, went right away, got a master's degree, and then started working as an administrator at a research university, a very large research university. And in my role in particular, I served students, particularly undergraduate students and first year students. And it was a predominantly white institution with very few people of color. And so, as a woman of color in an administrative role, there was just definitely a lot of need and a lot of expectation and pressure and weight. And so I began to feel that immediately, um,
mm,
and was very aware that, my ability to help others from the beginning, that it was going to cost me something.
mm.
I don't recall a time where I was not aware of that.
What is that though, baby? What is that element? I want to focus in on that phrase you said. I don't really know a time where I wasn't aware. What does that mean for you?
I don't know any other way to describe it. I think that, as a child, even there was always an awareness. And I cannot recall a time, even as young as maybe three, that I did not have awareness of having a
Three,
responsibility. Oh, yes,
3 years old.
three, to care for, to watch out for, and to look out for other people, despite maybe my own feelings of fear, anxiety, or uncertainty. For
Despite
me,
those things at that
this
age.
three, 3 years old, I was very
Jeez.
aware. I can have experiences where I felt unsure or I was afraid or I didn't know what to do, but I had to hold myself together to ensure that my baby brother, who, it's a couple years, I was 4, he was 1, that he could hold it together and that he would still feel secure and that things would be okay until something shifted. So that is something that
Mm,
I just don't have an awareness of being a person without that. Wait, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
I want to go just a little more right here. Do you ever? I just, and I've never asked you this even personally. Like, have you ever thought about or contemplated, like, God, did you wire me this way? Did you gift me? Did you do something in me supernaturally at such a young age to help me protect myself and my siblings? Or do you think it was fully circumstantial, situational, out of the experience that you had to endure? Have you ever wrestled with that thought in that way?
No, no, I 100% believe that that's a part of God's purpose and plan for my life
Woo.
because of where it is that I'm going and what it is that He called me to do. I am a
Mm,
person who needs to understand at a very deep level, right? Um, my responsibility to others. I used to think I was responsible for others. I'm not, but I am
mm,
responsible to others because there's a way that God uses me in the lives of others to help them to birth and to build the things that He has placed on the inside of him. And so I don't believe that it was a coincidence
mm,
that my early experiences started out the way that they did with even being exposed to that type of pressure and that type of weight. I think and I do believe that God doesn't make any mistakes and He's intentional in everything that He does. And as I look back, over my life, I get it. I get it. There are things that I deal with now on a daily basis as an entrepreneur, um, as of multiple businesses with multiple employees that I'm responsible for who depend on me. They depend on this company that there are things that I face day in and day out that if I did not understand, if I didn't know how to carry that weight,
mm,
I might be in trouble. I may not have been fully equipped, come on, for the thing that He has called me to do in this season. So, I don't look and think back about my experience and say, woe is me. Listen, He makes no mistakes and He's intentional in all things. And so I thank God
mm.
for the way that He's written my story and being the one who sees ahead, who has written this thing. So He knew and He continues to know exactly what it is that I need to go through so that I can become the person who can do everything that He's called me to do.
Mm. That's so good. Now I'm just reflecting back to the title, like we're talking about learning to love others well without losing yourself. And so here, um, just wondering, like, how have you done this, poured out so much, but then learned how to love you in the process and not lose you?
Yeah, I think the hard way, you know, that's
Give
how
me
I
a little
learned
nugget.
it.
What's the
I've
hard
learned it
way?
the hard way. The hard way is through experience. I haven't had the fortune of in the earlier years of my life anyone who uh, could come alongside me and say, hey, you really need to also look out for yourself. Hey, you should make sure that you're paying attention to these things concerning you and how you're doing and how you're navigating, and not just what it is that you can do for other people.
That's
And
good.
again, like I said earlier, I don't think that that was a part of the way that we talk to one another, whether it be in the context of family, community, or the church. People weren't talking about taking care of yourself and looking out for yourself, in addition to looking out for others. That was not a part of the language that we used. So I think I learned the hard way, which is through experience and, having multiple times and seasons in my life where, I would just burn all the way out. I would just give until I had nothing else to give over and over again. It would just be, I would do that on one job and leave and get to another job and be like, yes, okay, finally, things are going to be better. And no, they weren't. It turned into the same thing all over again. And then I would leave and eventually go somewhere else. And, ooh, this is such a fresh start. And guess what? I would do the same thing over again because I was not aware.
Mm,
I didn't have the awareness. And so if you're not aware and you don't understand what it is that you're doing behaviorally that leads to your burnout, you can't stop. going through cycles of burnout. And so I just did
Mm,
that over and over and over again until I probably didn't stop until I was like in my, man, I slowed down a lot once we had kids. So like when I hit my 30s, I slowed down a lot. So I wasn't doing it as intensely, but even with the kids when they were young, I was still doing some of that stuff. So I probably really didn't like get off of that train and like have that light bulb turn all the way on until I was about 35. Honestly, so for me, that was about 10 years ago, um, where the light bulb finally came on, and it was just like, you really need to pay attention. You really need to pay attention to what is going on with you. You really need to figure out how to offer more to yourself. Because what I realized, especially after becoming a mother, nobody else was going to do it. Nobody else is responsible for that, for taking care of myself, and nobody else was going to do it. And I
mm.
think I just had burnt out so many times, and I was just tired. I'm like, there has got to be a better way to live than this.
That right there.
There's got to be more to life than this, than these cycles of burnout. I was like,
Mm,
God, is there more to life? There must be. You
right,
didn't die for me to live like this.
right. And then if there must be, then it turns into people who really want to change and grow.
Yes.
Is Lord,
Show me, help me and show
help
me.
me,
Hmm.
help me and show me. That's good. Uh, sounds like self care now. Like got to a place where okay, enough is enough. I have to take Rosa. Got to take care of Rosa, regardless. And so even in like ministry, it's easy to confuse sacrifice with burnout,
For sure.
and people will glorify burnout with, "Oh man, you're so loyal, you're so faithful. God is going to bless you." How have you learned to guard your heart while still showing up for people?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is really learning how to pay more attention to myself and how I'm doing. Um, as you were talking, I think about like the biggest period of like transformation for me in terms of like learning how to love myself without, well, love others without losing myself. I think, I definitely learned some small things along the way, but I think the big turning point for me is when I started my private practice. And what kind of happened really organically is I got away from treating people who were struggling with like serious mental illness and adolescents who had like parents who were substance abusers or they were abusing drugs, to really like a population that was totally different. It was people who were kind of like healers and helpers like me, teachers and doctors and nurses. And they were just, trying to figure this thing out. And as I began to work with them individually in an outpatient setting, things are, you're seated and things are much slower. And one of the
Mm,
things that I was doing as I was helping these people approach their healing journey and their healing and recovery process and to deal with the anxiety and the depression in their lives is that really the way to do that is to become more aligned with yourself. And
mm,
if you are a person of faith, aligned with yourself and aligned with your God. Because if Christ
mm.
lives in you, that when you align even with yourself, you're going to also find him. Or if you aligned with him, you're going to find yourself. And so
That's
there's
good.
really no way around it. And so I kind of knew those things cognitively and logically, and they were just like, there was this awareness, in my soul around this is the pathway that I need to have these people walk on. But
Right.
if you're going to help to counsel or coach someone or disciple someone, you know what? You've got to eat it too.
That's good.
If you are
That's good.
really a leader who's healthy, you're not just going to be talking to people and giving them these antidotes and tips, and these aren't things that you even practice yourself. And so I found that the more and more that I counseled people in a slower pace in an outpatient setting, people who were more like me,
Uh-huh.
the more that I learned how to take care of myself, the
Mm,
more that I learned how to um, consider myself, the more that I was
mm.
able to see the ways in my own life and my own heart where I may have been struggling with my own value or valuing myself the way that I needed to. And that was kind of a hard thing to face as a person who is super confident. And I wouldn't think of myself as someone who struggles with their self esteem. But truth be told, is that if you are in your life consistently and constantly losing yourself because you're helping and serving and giving to everyone else, listen, baby, there's something going on there with yourself and your inability to value yourself and to esteem yourself properly.
Yeah. So I
And
would
that
say,
is what God helped me to face
mm,
as I worked with other people. And here's the really quick and easy answer. It's just like, how did I learn how to do that? There's one thing that I learned that I hold on to forever and that I teach other people is that before you give anything away to someone else, whether you have the desire to do it or someone asks you for something. First, I must take a look and evaluate my resources and ask myself, do I have the time, the energy, or the money to give? If I have it and I want to give it, then I should go ahead and give it. But if I don't have it to give, I most likely don't need to give it. Why? Because you don't need to make a habit of
mm.
giving away to people things that you actually don't even have.
But if
You
you don't,
you don't even have it. And so
yeah.
that is the question. The thing that I have learned to do is to check in with myself first. And I teach
Mm-hmm.
so many other people to do that because people who are givers and who love and who care and who are helpers, they're not selfish. That's not the problem. The problem is that they don't check in with themselves and they don't consider themselves in any situation. Some of us may even check in with God,
Right.
but we would obey whether he says yay or nay, but we never check in with ourselves. And
You
that's where
know,
we mess up.
it's hard to check in with somebody you don't know.
Come on. If you're not familiar with yourself, if you're not comfortable with yourself, if you're not attuned with yourself, if you are not aligned with yourself, you will not check in with yourself. And that was the thing for me that was the major game changer is that I began to check in with myself and tell and to be honest about where I really was and to give myself permission to give out of what it is that I really have,
Come on.
not out of what I don't have,
Or
which
what you desire for people to have.
come on, right? Because if that's good because I always desire people to be well and to have all of their needs met. And so that cannot be what drives my decision making because
That's
I
why people go into
always
debt.
want that. I always want that. But here's the issue. I'm not God and I'm
Mm,
not your God. And it is not my responsibility to meet all your needs. Only He can do that. I am
come on.
responsible to you. And if God releases me, right, and or I have the resources, I can choose to give. But it is not my responsibility to solve everyone's problems. And
There
the
it is.
truth is that when I was going through these cycles of losing myself in people over and over and over again, I subconsciously and secretly believed that I was a demigod. And it was my responsibility to respond to everyone's problem and to fix as many problems as I can. And it was a lie from the pit of hell.
That's so good. I think, yeah, you, it's like you nailed a question that I was thinking and you summed it up because I wanted to talk to you about, learning to love well without losing yourself in context of marriage and just other close relationships, right? And you just You summed it up,
Yeah,
you
and I
know.
think the reality of it is that whether it's your marriage or friendship or relationship with a family member, let me be honest and let me be clear. There are people who benefit from you losing yourself. There are people who in your life who benefit from you not having any boundaries, who benefit from you not respecting your own limits. So one of the things that happened is that I got awakened, more awakened to my God-given value. Come on.
Talk about it.
And I began to set healthier boundaries for myself, right?
Hmm.
And with other people, because see, you don't develop boundaries to manage and control other people. If that's why you're doing it all wrong. Boundaries are for you to learn how to manage and control your own life. And when I started doing that, let me tell you, there are some people in my family who got really upset about that. They got really upset about me no longer willing to go over and above and beyond and give out of what I don't have, whether it be money or time or energy, so
Come
that their
on.
need can be met. And then what you discover is that some of these attachments that you have, it's really just about people relying on you to do things that they need to be doing for themselves. And it's actually not high quality intimacy. And so it did challenge relationships with people in my family. It did challenge
Hmm.
some of my friendships. It did challenge some relationships with people that I work with. Hey, it even created challenges between you and I, you know?
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
know we've talked about those things, and I'm sure there are plenty of those things that'll come out as we journey on this podcast, because that's why we're here.
Yeah.
But this is what I'll tell you. It was one of the, it was, it's been challenging and it's been painful at times, but it's been one of the most liberating experiences of my life. Learning how to simultaneously love and think about and care about myself and other people at the same time.
Yes.
It has set me free.
Free. Yeah.
It has set me free, and it has opened me up to having greater levels of discernment around relationships, being
Hmm.
able to better understand sometimes what the motives and the motivations are,
Hmm.
even
Yeah.
unspoken, in regards to relationships and how people move. And it
Yeah.
allows me to save my energy and to
That's
really
good.
be more cognizant about where and with whom I am making deposit,
That's good. Yeah. You
because
made me
not
think.
everybody cares about you taking care of yourself. Some people really
All
what
right.
they care most about is getting what they can out of
That's good. You made me think. NO
you.
will show you how much a relationship can grow.
Absolutely. Right. And the
Because this
ones
comes
who've
back to
grown with me
boundaries.
have grown with me. And the ones who
Right.
cannot, guess what? Maybe we're still in relationship, but we don't have the same type of intimacy. But you
Right.
know what? That's fine with me, because what I realized is that there were some people who, maybe they felt like it was a close relationship, but the reality of it is that if I were honest, I wasn't really enjoying the relationship.
Yeah. Right. And people who can't handle, listen, guys, people who can't handle your no cannot handle the authentic, truest version of who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just got to the point where I wanted to be honest. I wanted to be
That's it.
more of who it is
That's
that I
it.
really was and be seen and known and understood as that person.
Yeah.
Right? Because
That's
if there's
good.
not room for that, then are we really close? No. Like we could just go to the movies or
No.
have coffee, but we don't need to talk
Right.
about the ins and
No.
life
Mm-mm.
outs of my life, because you don't want to
Hmm.
know me.
Right. No. So, babe, give the people a couple of practical ways. Give them some nuggets, practical ways on how you've been able to keep yourself grounded in who you are, as it relates to your spiritual practices, spiritual disciplines, practical little things that you're doing that you have done to help you to stay in alignment with how God needs you to show up for you and for
Absolutely.
Him.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that I do. I believe that like one of the biggest and most important ways that you can stay like on the path that God has for you is learning how to not just stay aligned with Him, but also to stay aligned with yourself.
Mm.
Because there are a lot of people out here who are aligned with God, my air quotes, and misaligned with themselves. And I'm not so
Ooh,
sure how aligned you really are with God. If you're misaligned with yourself, you don't know yourself, you don't feel comfortable with yourself, you can't sit still, you can't be quiet. I'm not so sure about that. And so most of my practices really center around staying connected to myself, rooted and grounded in my God-given identity and staying aligned with Him. And so for me, it's nothing magical or mystical. It's really about discipline and the things that are good for my soul, right? And my
mm-hmm.
body and my
Right.
spirit. And for me, that is exercise. I move my body
Mm.
at least 5 days a week, and I do it
Yes,
very
you do.
intensely. I do. I
I
do it
mean,
very
oh,
intensely.
sorry.
I need that. It clears my mind. It helps me to remember that I can do hard things. It keeps me stabilized with my mood. And so that for me is a foundational
Thank you,
thing.
Lord.
There are times where I love it and times where it's hard, but let me tell you, I need it. So I move my body
Oh,
with
it's hard.
intention every single day. Um, I also have time of prayer and devotion.
Mm-hmm.
Most every day, Monday through Friday. That's important to me. I have different ways of connecting to God, not just talking to Him, but positioning myself to where He can talk to me and I can hear from Him,
Yes.
right? For me, it's also important to be a part of a local church and to be physically present there as much as I can and to make a contribution. I do believe in the body of Christ, and I do believe that what God, everything that He talks about us experiencing in His word and the goodness, that the context for that is community. And
Mm.
so I am really intentional about being a part of my local church, but then also cultivating my community of people. They don't all go to my church, but like my friends, my people who are my closer friends and spending time with them, having conversations with them regularly, the people in my family that I do have intimate
Yeah.
relationships, not all of them, but the ones that I do, making sure that I make that a priority in our communication and our connection. I work a lot, and I love what I do. And because of that, I have to make time to rest and time to play and time to have conversations with people,
Mm.
conversations that have nothing to do with my work. That is a part of how I stay aligned with myself and stay grounded and
So
fun
good.
with our date nights and um,
Yeah.
my rest and my relaxation by giving myself time on Saturdays to do no work and to sleep as much as I want
And
and
do what you want to do
do what I want. I go on vacation with my friends. I go to the spa.
and leave me at home.
I leave them at home. I go have meals by myself sometimes. I go out and have meals with friends. I travel. I do the things that are good for my soul, that keep me aligned with myself and they keep me aligned with,
Mm-hmm. And align with
and
your
they keep
man.
me aligned with others,
Right.
healthy people. Come on, other
Healthy
healthy
people.
people.
My God. That's so good. Let's get this, even a little more personal as it relates to family. So, like, when you think about your sons or any other people that you would consider your children, because it's not just the boys, and anyone else watching your life, um, what do you want them to learn about what healthy love really looks like?
To me, it's really simple. Healthy
Do
love,
tell.
yes, healthy love is a space where you can simultaneously love yourself and someone else at the same time.
Ooh,
It's that simple. There's enough space for me to care about me and be who I am, and for you to care about yourself and me to care about you. Those things don't have to be in competition. That's healthy
So, all
love.
right. So how do you know when that's out of balance? Real quick.
I mean, there are all kinds of ways. You know, it's out of balance when you're in relationship with someone and you really aren't able to be yourself.
Mm,
You're not able to talk about the things that are important to you. You don't share what you think or how you feel. You always have to put their needs first.
mm.
You are always giving, and they are typically always taking. They do not show up for you. You're the one who's showing up for them. Need I go on?
I know some people might want you to, but they're gonna have to
Right.
stick with us to get
Right.
more.
They don't have positive words of encouragement to tell you. They may be acting like they're joking, but they say things to put you down, discourage you. They don't believe in your dreams. They don't listen to you.
Yeah. All right. So, man, we can go on and on and on. I would love for you to drop a line or two on how learning to love yourself well without losing yourself has brought you closer to God's purpose for your life.
Man, I would not be where I am today if I
Mm,
had not learned, one, that I needed to level up in my self-love game. And then
mm,
two, get on the journey and stay on the journey of learning how to love myself more and see myself the way that God truly sees me. It has changed everything. It has changed everything. I believe that for me, learning how to love myself and balance that with loving others has just allowed me to be more free.
mm.
I don't have this weight of this false responsibility and obligation to take care of everybody.
Good Lord.
I
Whew.
still love people and care very deeply for them, but I
Right.
no longer see myself as their solution.
Mm.
I'm not your
Y'all hear
solution
that?
and I'm not your savior.
Whew.
If and when God shows me, or I recognize that I have the capacity and the desire to do something to be helpful to you, I am more than happy to. But I'm not running around here looking for fires to put out. And so I think, that's been the biggest thing, is that it's allowed me to be free so that I could be focused. You know, I'm not out here any longer being so distracted by good things that I can't do a God thing.
Mm. Which is a great thing.
Come
Hey,
on now. Because I was
that's good.
so distracted before. I was
Hmm.
just like, I mean, when I had breakthrough in my career and my business, it was crazy. I didn't realize how close, like it was right there. It was right there. Like things took off for me in like literally 6 months,
Yeah.
and it was
It was a
easy.
decision.
It was right at my fingertips, but I couldn't access it because I was so distracted.
Mm.
I was so
That's good.
distracted by my over functioning for others and my under functioning for myself. And once I came out of that, my God,
So good.
everything changed for
Mm.
me and my life and my business and my family too. We made major moves after I came out
We
of that.
did.
Major,
Yeah.
life changing.
Whew. Well, baby, Rosa, Coach Rosa, therapist Rosa, not my therapist. Uh, I just want to thank you, and I'm sure all the people want to thank you for sharing just your heart, just being vulnerable and open about your journey. And I know that there's so many who needed to hear about this kind of love and understanding that people do not have to sacrifice their peace nor their identity on the altar of showing up for others, on the
Amen.
altar of meeting the needs of other people. right? There's balance in that. And so, God, he never, ever asks us to lose ourselves for love. He asks us to love others as ourselves,
Amen.
right? And Jesus, Jesus said that we are to love others as he has loved us. And that is an unconditional love. But even in an unconditional love, it does not call us to love without boundaries. Unconditional doesn't mean love without boundaries.
Amen.
And people get those confused.
They do. They certainly
Do you
do.
have just like a one line to share with the people before I pray?
Well, this is what I wanted to share. I actually wrote a book called Rediscovering You. It's an active spiritual journey towards embracing your most authentic self. And so, if you're really stirred by the things that I've shared on today and this conversation between myself and Coach Jefferson, I encourage you to purchase the book and to read it because it will bless you. And really, what it talks about is this journey that I talked about today in regards to figuring out where you are and whether or not you esteem yourself the way that you really should.
Mm,
And the way that you really should is really all about seeing yourself the way that God sees you so that you can be free to do the things that He's called you to do. And the reality of it is that most of us don't esteem ourselves that highly. We really don't.
mm,
And I talk a lot in this book about balancing learning to love yourself and not just others well, but to balance those things out. You can find that at thehealingpros.com/rediscovering you. That's what I'll leave with the people because it's a wonderful read that can be a tremendous blessing to anyone who just really identify with a lot of the things that I said, and they want to go a little further and figure out how to do that. It's
mm.
all in the book.
Yeah, it's a small book, you guys, but it's going to cause you to go deep and
Absolutely.
do your work. So good. It's a powerful book. Ooh. Um, so, babe, what are we talking about next week?
So listen, y'all, he put me in the hot seat and got all up in my business in this episode number
I like
six.
getting in your business.
I know you do, but episode number 7, the tables will be turned. I will be interviewing Coach Jefferson and having this conversation about his story and us being able to understand a little bit about him and his background and his journey that he's on in regards to learning how to balance out loving himself and others well, how he's learning to love others without losing himself. Because that's what these conversations on this podcast, that's what they're all about. So you want to make sure that you tune in next week so that you hear what he has to say. It's going to be so powerful.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Let me pray for the people. So, Father, we thank you for every listener who's been carrying the weight of loving others to the point of emptiness. Lord, tonight I pray you refill them with peace, restore their boundaries, and remind them of their worth in you. Teach us to love like you do, fully, freely, and wisely. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys, if this conversation blessed you, would you consider supporting the Healing Project? Your donations help us keep producing resources that bring faith, healing, and practical wisdom to people around the world. You can make a tax-deductible donation or become a monthly supporter at www.thehealingpros.com/donate. Every gift makes a difference. All right. We love you, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Goodbye, everybody.
This podcast will help you better understand God's purpose for your life and your relationships.
Through deep conversations, storytelling, and real-world solutions will inspire you to live, love, and lead from a place of healing.
Visit www.thehealingpros.com and follow us on all social media platforms at The Healing Pros. While we hope you enjoy this podcast, all information shared is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for a relationship with a professional counselor, coach, or clergy member.